So background, grew up in Los Angeles, uh, in South LA, went to Marvin Avenue School, went to Hamilton High School, went to Louis Pasteur Middle School, uh, went to Cal State Northridge, where I got my bachelor's degree in finance. So that was way back when. And from a family perspective, have a sister, a couple of younger sisters, an older brother, that are all still in and about around the LA area.
Okay.
Mom and dad grew up in the city. One went to LA, one went to Dorsey, so we're very much LA people. My dad's a huge SC fan, as am I. I did not get an opportunity to attend as you did, but I still ball team and congratulations on what looks like it's going to be a really fantastic season this year. So.
It should be. It should be.
Yeah.
So what made you want to be an entrepreneur? What made you get started?
I started when I was 21. I think I've only had one job in my life, and that was working at a bank. I worked at Home Savings. It's now part of the Chase family. I was a bank teller there. Worked in the mailroom and did some other things. And one summer, can't even remember what year. Probably it was 1980. Some folks came in and held my window up at gunpoint, and that seemed to be a sign to me that maybe it was time to try something different. And so I always had a fascination with real estate and with housing, not necessarily the sales side of it, but more of the consultative side. And so that's when I got some preliminary education in valuations and appraisal, and that sort of started my journey.
Okay. What year did you start PCV Murcor?
I started PCV in 1981. So I think literally I got help at gunpoint, and the next day went in and quit my job and this license. And it was me. I wasn't married or otherwise involved. So it was nevertheless scary, but it was a good time. I think I was 21 years old at the time.
Now I know you have PCV Murcor, but Miss Dawn also told me that you had a couple other businesses that you started up.
Yeah, so we have affiliated companies that work in a bit of a flywheel fashion. So we have a valuations company. We have a management company that sells assets for government agencies or financial institutions. That's based out of Texas, called Vendor Resource Management. And then we have a title agency, which is in the title and closing space, that actually closes the sales of the properties that we sell. The company in Texas. This also gives business to the valuations company. So we're all affiliated. There's firewalls in between, but each one sort of in the life cycle of a transaction may touch the same asset.
Did you already want to start a business and you're just figuring out what business I wanted to start? Or was it like, okay, I know I'm going to want to be in real estate and do something with that, and then being held up at gunpoint is what pushed you over the edge to just go for it and start?
Yeah. So at the time I was in school, I was working during the day and taking business classes at night at Cal State Northridge. So I was around finance. I wasn't sure if it was going to be sort of corporate finance route. I looked at some corporate planning, sort of intern opportunities, and but real estate had always been something that fascinated me, and the actual property and the bundle of rights that one gets, and transformational real estate can be for individuals, not only from the transactional side, but also from the ownership side, and what it does in terms of building wealth. And so when I was working at Home Savings, I got exposed to a training program that back then, and still now, very few institutions train. So they had an internal training program. So I was already in that training program. Interest rates, oddly enough, given the time we're in now, interest rates then had gone up to 18%. And I think now we've got rates that are really high, but they had never been that. They've taken all real estate trainees and appraisers and loan production folks and moved us back into the teller line, which is where I had come from. So that's when so I was sort of on that path. And then once the robbery happened, that was the catalyst to get me.
Have you thought about venturing out into any other industries besides real estate, or are you're happy in real estate right now?
It's provided a good life for myself and my family, and been able to, I've had other friends and other folks that have come into the organization and been able to go off and start companies and get into other businesses. So, no, I feel pretty good about it. I think that, we'll be doing some investments and we own other pieces of real estate. So that is just sort of a natural offshoot of being in and around it.
Right. Okay. So the next question I'd like to ask is, what did you do to prepare to start the business? So now, like, any concerns about risk, or if there was any risk, how did you manage that risk? And really down to like the nitty gritty of starting it from the bottom up.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing that I did once I was committed to going down the path, in this case of appraisal, because that was really what I was doing. I was an appraisal that would, for mortgage purposes. I went back to school to get educated so that I would be, at the top of my field in terms of credentials. And so in the real estate profession, then there was no state regulatory bodies that licensed us, which is what's in place now. At that point in time, there was an organization called the Appraisal Institute, still exists today. And different levels of credentials that one can get, either a residential credential or an all-encompassing residential commercial credential. So I went back and studied and got the MAI designation, which is sort of the doctorate, if you will, of appraisers. And so for me, that was really important to not only, I imagine I wouldn't be doing appraisals for my whole life, but if we were in the business of selling valuation and service to folks, that if I were in the room and we were having conversations about, there wouldn't be anything that I did not know about, whether it was a single family property or a hotel or a industrial complex, that I could converse and be familiar with those. And so that really helped grow the business in terms of all the different levels and types of properties that we could provide services for. So that was critical, was really getting the education necessary. And I think not just to have the education for the education's sake, but also gave me a lot more confidence when I walked into meetings.
Right. How long did it take you to get that certificate or degree? The MAI?
It's like a 2-year program. So
2-year program? Okay.
Not quite a graduate program, but it involved, I can't remember how many hours of education, and that's online now. You can find it, but comprehensive examination. I think at that time was a 16-hour exam that you had to take. You had to write a sort of a demonstration report that was somewhat similar to a thesis, and then defend that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was probably the biggest thing. I mean, the risk, there wasn't as much risk. I mean, certainly it was a risk to take care of myself. I had a day job, but I had some assistance from my family. So
how was that balance between trying to start the business and having a day job? Was it difficult or was it easy to manage?
Well, it was all consuming, and I have a daughter now. My oldest daughter, she's a freshman at Arizona.
Okay.
So, we sort of talk about how her day is in the course of being a student, and I did not have those experiences. So didn't go to football games, didn't have, I don't know if they ever went to a frat party or any that she and you may do. I didn't have those opportunities because I was between starting a business and getting a degree. There was not a lot of free time.
Right. Okay. And how long was it before you you started the business and got to the point where it's like, okay, I can see something growing here and I can see it going forward, making a little bit of profit or anything?
I think it was fairly quick, probably within the first year, towards the end of the first year. I do some work and okay, I could check that off. I've been able to pay this and then pay that. And then all of a sudden, at one point in time, you looked up and there was something extra like that we call profit. And so, so I imagine after the first year, I started to see that it was going to be something that I could make a living at, and have some freedom to, do things on the weekends for a change. But for the first year, it was a 7-day week.
Right.
Grinding
it out.
Yep.